Good evening, everybody. I'm Officer Brush from Officer Brush Talks About Stuff. And today I'm here with James Cole, and he's here to talk about his brand new game, Thrown Under the Bus. And let's go ahead and let you introduce yourself a little bit.
Okay. James S. Cole, creator of Thrown Under the Bus. I've been around in the gaming industry for actually quite a few years. I used to do illustrations for White Wolf on their World of Darkness, and I've done some of the Deadlands board game stuff with Twilight Creations and worked with a bunch of other smaller publishers. I let a 9 to 5 job take over my life, so which let my freelance game stuff kind of wither on the vine, which was fine. The job allowed me to travel the world and eventually became the inspiration for Thrown Under the Bus. So it's going to allow me to do bigger and better things, anyways. So my current 9 to 5 job, however, is still pretty nerdy. I work at Arknight, and they make 3D, flat plastic miniatures. We do some 3D miniatures, and with them, I'm helping them fulfill and actually design some of their projects that they're putting up on Kickstarter. So that's helping me with mine, and they're going to actually help me with some of the deployment of mine. So it's going to be a good symbiotic relationship, and basically allows me to do this, but not coming into it cold, even though this one's technically my first.
And so, what exactly is Thrown Under the Bus?
Thrown Under the Bus is the game of office politics, but usually when I say that, like when I'm demoing this at cons and at Gen Con, and I'm like, hey, you want to play a game? And people are like, oh, yeah, sure. Like, it's before it goes on Kickstarter. They're like, oh, it's great. And I'm like, it's a game of office politics. And they're like, ooh, yeah, I don't, I do that all day. Why would I want to play this game? And I was like, all right, I understand your pain points. I totally do. I'm like, this is, it's a fun take on it, and it's a cathartic release because you're going to get to do the things you dreamed about doing in revenge for somebody else messing with you. And they're like, okay, I can see this appeal. And then when they sit down and after a half hour we're laughing and they're laughing at the cards, and that changed their mind real quick. Yeah, so that's what it is. As far as game mechanics go, it's a bit of a deck management game, not really necessarily a deck building. I'm sure as we talk more, we'll get into the meat of the game, but it's kind of that. And people would call it, I guess, a take that game, but I really wouldn't, because it's like a give and take that game, because you're dealing out some stuff, but you gotta anticipate that it's going to come back to you. Everything's very thematic in the game, so. That's the Thrown Under the Bus in the short. 2 to 6 players, takes about 30 to 90 minutes to play, depending on group size.
And, how did this idea come about? It's very much, from looking at it, it is the office politics, but it's taken in a satirical way where it's not meant to be serious. It's supposed to be a using in the office environment as a theme to help you have this fun game. But how did that idea come around?
This game, actually, the core concept, the idea came about, man, had to be 25 plus years, maybe 27 years ago. Me and a bunch of friends worked at an office, and we would play games in the break room. Well, I actually worked in the production area first, and I was good at my job, so I got promoted. And then I moved into another area. I was good at my job, and I got promoted. And then eventually got promoted where my feet walked onto the rug. And the second my feet hit that rug, it was like, what Twilight Zone is this? Like, here, it doesn't matter if you work hard. It's some sort of weird suck upness, or it made no sense to me, because I got where I got because I was good at my job and I worked hard, and I figured how you got ahead. But anyway, so me and friends would play games there, and I told them about this, and you would see it when you weren't in the office, but it didn't really affect you. But when you're sitting in it, you're like, ah, God, it's terrible. So we started coming up with a concept of a game called Pink Slip, which was to get your coworkers fired. All right. because we had little revenge fantasies about people that basically, didn't do much, but were seen to be good workers. So we started throwing around ideas, but it never really made it into the prototype stage. But we had a bunch of ideas. Um, and then I was moving on, so that game kind of fell by the side. But like a real big push for it, and the thing that allowed me to really see like the office politics in action was I sat next to a woman who would come in late every day, take like an hour lunch 2 to 3 times a week, and then leave early every day. And not only would she do that, but she would like kind of like take credit for other people's work and really wouldn't do much at all. But yet she was held up as like this example of a good employee, and everybody saw it and they were scratching their heads. And this was, again, that's why we were coming up with Pink Slip, because we are like, this just makes no sense. Like, why are you giving me this person as an example of how I should be? And if we were all like this, literally nothing would get done. So I was moving on from that place, which, that I listed that as one of my reasons, but it wasn't the only reason. They were a small company and it was just, there weren't any more opportunities for going up, especially with this person in the way. So in my exit interview, I listed that, and they were like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "My exit interview was at 9:50. We were supposed to be there at like 9 o'clock." I point up to the clock, and then I point at her desk, and I'm like, "So yeah." Years later, completely different job, completely different office, but yet some things are still way the same, and I'm seeing more of it, and I'm still just like in that mindset. I'm gonna work hard, and it's going to keep me insulated from some of this office politics if I just do a great job. you know so I was killing it, I was doing a great job, but somebody came in that was really good at office politics and pretty much didn't like me, and tried to throw me under the bus right in front of the CEO, and I called her on her lie. I should have been smarter and held out because she was higher ranked than me, but no, I called her on her lie and just laid it out there, and it ended up getting me, losing status instead of hers. It's like you just lied to the owner, like yeah. So anyways, so I lost that job, and that was right at the very, very end of 2019. So coming to 2020, and one of the top selling points on your resume is that you're really good at setting up trade shows and trade show booths across the world and stuff like that. International trade show experience was like one of the big selling points on my resume. So I was not going to get a job doing that again for the next 2 years. So I had a lot of time on my hands, and I was like, I'm going to revisit Pink Slip. So I started getting into it, and I was like, okay, this is way too simple, and this was just like a joking idea we kicked around, and it lacked some serious meat. So I gave it another look, and I was like, okay, no, I'm just going to make it what it really is, the game of office politics. And it's going to be a push and pull of like promoting yourself while still tearing down your coworkers. So that's the why and the how of the game. So I had a lot of time, and now I work somewhere that's supportive of creating a game, so that even though like I work the booth at Gen Con, so, and other conventions, and the boss is like, "Hey man, skip out and go demo your game." And I'm like, "All right, cool." So I get to go there, demo my game, get to do all the game industry fun things, but also still have to work, which is great. It's great.
How do you feel like your job as a graphic designer and just all of those skills that you gained over the years, how do you think that that's kind of helped you when it came to polishing the game and kind of working on those kind of gameplay mechanics? Would you say your background in gameplay and all that kind of stuff has helped you?
Oh yeah, it helped and hurt because it's also I get less outside input at times. So I think the very, very final touches, I got a buddy, I really like the way he designs things. I'm gonna have him like, give us another pass. Stay true to this like idea, but give me a little more gloss. Just because, yeah, it's like somebody that produces their own music. Eventually, you start getting too much of your own flavor, and it kind of just goes off too far that way. But it's really been helpful, just like art school skills when I'm making a prototype and like wrapping the box. I don't have to watch videos on like how to dummy things up and wrap things up. Another way it hurts is I'm used to professional templates and stuff like that. So when somebody sends me a template or I got to make files in RGB, I'm just like, oh, my color's gonna be wrong. I can't handle this. Why can't I just give you the high res PDF and CMYK with some Pantone colors? Like, no, no. And I find that other people who are also professionals like have that problem. And then I don't get the results that I know I would had it been a, professional like setup. And it's like, okay, whew, just just breathe through it, man. You're gonna be okay.
How do you feel like trying to make your own board game? How do you feel like that experience has been different than kind of some of the other projects that you may have handled before?
I mean, I was the only one I had to answer to, so that was kind of cool. Eventually, it just required a lot of input from people, but I had to filter the input by the people that I know and trust, but also
Yeah.
I made the game as a gateway game, so I kind of actually took more input from people that weren't hardcore gamers, and
Okay.
then I was like, oh, I'm going to do that, but there's still the back end will be there for people that can see the matrix and see the combos and get deep into the meat where you can, manipulate the meta of the game, if you will.
What is the goal that let's go over some of the gameplay stuff. What
Sure.
is the
Yeah.
goal that you are trying to achieve in Thrown Under the Bus?
The goal is to become the senior VP. So the game has a center board, which is the conference room, and has numbered seats around it. And where you sit in the conference room is you're standing within the company. So you're trying to get to the big chair. All right. Each round is a week or is called a week. Everything's thematic. You get these 5 chips, which are influence tokens, and you get to do 5 things. And play continues until everybody in a turn as everybody spent their tokens. The game favors the strong because the office favors the strong, favors the person in charge. So if you're in the lead, you go first. But that also puts it out there that everybody knows you're in the lead. There's no hiding it. Like some games you can hide your resources and stuff. No, everybody knows you're a higher status here. Um, but the part that I really love about the game and what I think is one of the unique mechanics of it are everybody has a desktop. It has the 5 days of the week on it. You can play a card on any of your 5 days, or you can play a card on anybody else's desktop, except for their Monday. The idea is Monday you go to work, you try to decide your own day. Usually by Tuesday, somebody's messed up your week. But so only you can play on your Monday or the rest of your week or anybody else's Tuesday to Friday out there. All right. Follow me so far? Now, when you clean up the cards at the end of the round, you'll tally up what has happened on your desktop slash tableau. When you clean up, all the cards that are on your desktop become part of your discard pile. So now what that means is the dirty trick that you played on me, I've learned from that dirty trick. Now it becomes part of my repertoire, which is very thematic. Somebody does something terrible to you at work. You learn from it and you're like, okay, now I know how to do that to you. So that's why I call it a bit of a deck management game because you are going to pass out cards. So you got to be cognizant of the fact that if I give this card out, especially like the cards that you start with have your character's face on them. So when this person goes through their deck and they see now they have a negative in their hand and they know it came from me. So, I have to expect that I'm going to get some of these cards back. So that's why I call it a bit of a deck management game. All right. But you do that. And then basically there's a Friday meeting where everybody gets together and we go over what we did for the week. So you flip over your cards, and you basically just go over what has done, and then at the end you tabulate what it is, and any change up or down is how you go. All right. The game has a built-in, basically, kind of like tutorial round, if you will, where everybody starts off with the same 10 cards. You get a 5-card hand, so you get the same 10 cards where they're flavored to your character, but the math on them is the same. All right. You start with the more basic cards, and then you slowly get access, or you can trade in those cards for ones in the center, which are more powerful. So you learn, you know, within the first 2 rounds, basically how to do this, even if you're unsure of it or you're not a gamer. You're like, oh, okay, I got this. And then you just do the simple math and you're like, all right. And then eventually you start getting like action cards, which allow you to manipulate the weak. And then there's more powerful, like one-shot cards and things like that will then enter your hand. So it has that. As far as other great mechanics I really love about the game, it basically has a built-in catch-up mechanic, which is, as soon as somebody like really starts to take the lead, they're going to now take the heat, which means the guy in the back is going to get left alone to basically just put in a hard week of doing some work and doing some of their own manipulation. Now all of a sudden they're back in the game. Actually, the Monday mechanic gives a lot of fun stuff can happen with that, because it's protected, so you don't have to play anything there. Now, however, cards can be moved into the Monday; they just can't be played there. So this is where more experienced gamers still can get into the game and get more out of it than just like, oh, this is simple math. And you're like, no, it is, but there's so much more. So with the Tuesday mechanic, you realize like Tuesday becomes real powerful. If you have a card that wipes out everything before it, playing it on somebody's Friday is really powerful. If you get cards that manipulate things, those are usually really good in the beginning of the weeks, or in the middle of the week, excuse me. So there is, once you get in it and start understanding it, you realize that there's a lot of deep mechanics in the game other than simple math.
Okay. So it's a lot of elements of cards management, because you have to figure out what to put on other people's desk, but also trying to protect yourself from other people's actions. And so there's a strategy from that, but the overall theme is that it's just a fun stress reliever to kind of it's almost going to play like an episode of The Office with the hijinks and things like that.
Right, exactly. And sometimes like the weeks just role play themselves out, which is a lot of, I found that like people that have worked together or even still work together, when they play this game and they see some of the weeks that come out, they just start laughing and they're like, dude, that is totally you. Like, there's like the burnt popcorn card, which that's going to show, it's probably going to show backwards too, whatever. So, but like, they're like, dude, you do that, but for like role playing out weeks, one of my favorites has usually been like somebody gets the industry award, and then behind that, somebody will slap them with happy hour drunk. And you're like, well, that totally makes sense. This person got an award, and the next day they went out with their coworkers and they got ripped, And then there's the card that executive lunch. So, you go out and you have lunch with the executives, and it allows you to just wipe out a trash a card that happened previously. So then you trash the happy hour drunk, and it makes sense. So the bosses were there too. And because you got happy hour drunk with them, it didn't matter. It didn't matter that you were a sloppy jerk, because you were a sloppy jerk with the boss. So, there's a lot of like fun things in there that, you just look at them and you're like, that makes total sense, or people will be like, I know you do that, or I've seen you do those things.
Okay. So it starts to become a lot of parts where people can kind of figure out, like they'll start to connect to certain things, and it's not so much that it's connecting to them in the wrong way. It's just everyone who's probably been in an office environment can kind of relate to this, even if they're not board gamers. Where it's a fun approach to it, is from what it seems like. I've read the rules and I've kind of gone over some of it as well, and I could see how people can start getting on board and making jest and fun with each other with this kind of thing.
Right. That's my hope. That's why I also kept it light and kind of want to keep it as a gateway game. I got expansions already planned, so that will up the ante and the complication. But yeah, that's why I wanted to make a gateway game because I know this if it catches on right, it has a lot of just straight up like mass appeal. I, it could be a office white elephant present, it'd be a bunch of them and yeah, that's my hope.
Okay, well, it seems like it's on the right track for that kind of stuff.
Cool. Thank you.
Let's kind of move on to a little bit about the Kickstarter. So, what is the
Okay.
Kickstarter going to be for? And what can somebody that's going to back the project, what can they expect out of it? Like reward
Yeah.
tiers, what kind of
Yeah.
prizes?
For the Kickstarter itself, I'm pretty much ready to go. However, doing my research, it's like end of November and December is the worst time ever. One of my favorite things about the Kickstarter will be you can get the top tiers will be getting your face on a card. So that's why a lot of these cards, and even in the rules still now, just have these question marks with these silhouettes. So yeah, that's going to be the top one. The cool thing is I've made a lot of buddies in the role playing gaming industry. So I asked my artist friends who I wanted to work on projects with, or that I needed to throw some jobs their way because they threw jobs my way. I was like, "Hey, man, you want to get in on this? Obviously, you're going to get paid." And most of them are like, "Yeah." Some were like, "I'm too damn busy," which I was like, "I totally get it. I totally get it." But like the guy that did the cover of the game, which is my buddy Steve Ellis. So he did the cover. He's done, lots of Magic cards, Only Living Boy, High Moon, comic books. He's a great guy, great artist. So I had him do the cover, and just to get us rolling, he also did an example of a card. So we got our industry award here, and that's how your portraits are going to look. It's going to be like semi cartoony, just to keep it light. So that's going to be the top tier. The top one, which I know this card's going to totally sell, is the Office Romance. So it's going to be two people on a card. Yeah, I know people that met at work are going to love that one. And my favorite, which is coming up this week, is the Inappropriate Costume card. It's a one shot because Halloween only comes once a year. It's a whopping -7. And I don't know if we've all seen it, but a lot of people have seen the person that takes Halloween too far in the office. You're like, that's a great costume, but sexy zombie nurse was not the right go for work, right? Or just like too far. You're like, oh man, yeah. And actually, this card came about. I have a artist buddy. His name's Alan Graves. He's like one of the uh, top tattoo artists in England. And I was like, dude, I want to get you on this project. He's like, oh yeah, I'm totally in. I'll do some portraits. Can I do a zombie? And I was like, it's about working in the office, dude. You can't do. Wait a minute. The Inappropriate Costume card. I'm making it just for you. And yes. And he was like, okay, I'm in. Let's do it. So yeah, that's gonna be the top tier. As far as other things planned, there's gonna be like the game comes with wooden chips. We have a laser at work, and I get access to the acrylic, which I can buy at Arknight's cost, which saves me a lot. So I'm probably going to make acrylic versions of all the chips, if you want to go with those, and they'll be etched, with the characters' portraits and stuff. So those will be fun. I have 2 expansions pretty much ready to go. I don't know which one I'd go with. One is nuptials and nepotism. So that is going to add the boss's offspring to the game, and they enter in and they move up every round no matter what, and there's nothing you can do. So now you have to race the other players plus race this person who will also have an effect where they will make your lives, hell. That will come with new cards. That will also come with the ability to make the players asymmetrical. So everybody will get unique cards for their particular play style. So there's a guy in the game that's totally me. His name's Albert. He's the old guy that believes that working really hard will get you ahead. He's the person that's been there the longest, but the dude's still yet to be in charge. And he walks around saying that his polo has the original logo on it. That's like his claim to fame. So, but like Albert will get powers where he can just ignore cards because he's seen it all before, kind of thing. So yeah, that'll give the ability to make characters asymmetrical. And again, that's more for like gamers
He
that enjoy
he's
that
for
kind
the
of thing.
he's for all those people that they know they've been there so long that if they were to get fired, the company goes under.
Right. Oh, that reminds me of one of my other favorite parts of the game. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So you can get fired from the office in this game. All right. There's everybody starts in a starting cube, and you could go up to like a corner cube, and then you start getting into the offices and management, or you can go down into like the mail room and the warehouse, and then intern, and then out the door. If you get kicked out the door, you're not out of the game, but you can't win, as I say. So you get to, in gamer terms, they'll get to say you get to play Kingmaker, but I don't know you're going to be that powerful. But the idea is it disincentivizes you to get somebody fired, because if you get somebody fired, guess what? They're going to come gunning for you. And the cool thing is people can still play cards on you, but your status doesn't matter. So what other people do is feed you cards to feed to the person you don't like. So yeah, but again, people are like, oh, that's too harsh of a mechanic, and you're like, only if you make it, and only if you guys pretty much decide that you're cool with that. Otherwise, don't get Bob fired. If you know he's a vindictive player, get him fired. Knock him down, but don't get him fired.
It's one of those games that you want to kind of be like a very much a party icebreaker game kind of thing, where you want it to be, not one of those games where you want everyone to lose their friendship like Monopoly, but you still want it to be fun.
Right. And I hopefully they take it, and everybody I've played with, at least so far, I've seen it. Sometimes somebody just straight up does get trashed, and then they just want to play another round because once you know the mechanics, the games go fast enough where you can be like, all right, I'm gonna all out go for you. Also in the game, it says right in the rules that you can collude with other people. You just can't say exact cards or exact effects, and you're not bound by any deals you make because it's the office. So if you tell somebody, hey, let's gang up on this guy and we won't attack each other, and then he lays down a card attacking that guy and you still attack him, well, that was your fault for believing that guy. You should know better than that.
How long do you plan to run the project for on the Kickstarter? And I know you're still working out some of the things, but have you thought about any other kind of board game upgrades? When it comes to like linen finish or UV spots, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, those were like the most basic, and because they're the most basic, they kind of dropped off my mind. So like instead of the cardboard tray, there'd be the vacuum form tray with room for components and room for expansions. The linen finish and kicking things up. I was going to put excuse me, like expanded rules on the website, which gave like some mild tactics. I don't want to give them all away because then people start to just only use those, but so expanded rule book with some of that kind of in there. There was all those like basic things were definitely going to be part of it for sure. I'm just going to run it, what is the standard time, like 21 days or whatever. So I'm hoping it kicks enough ass in that time that it's not a problem. Like, and there should be stuff that, there's like drank the last of the coffee. Like it's totally non-offensive or anything like that, but you like, that pain when you walk in, you see somebody walk out of the break room and you walk in and you just look there and you're like, oh man, I know that was you. Look at you. You're just walking out smiling, pretending like you didn't see it. And then there's the nice guy that does make the cup of coffee. So there's just fun little things in that. There's a whole bunch of like buzzwords in the cards, because I was never a buzzword guy, and buzzword guys just kill me. I'd be in meetings and I'm like, man, that dude just talked for like 2 minutes and said absolutely nothing. Like just nothing. He sounded good. Yeah. And the CEO's like, oh yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. And you're like, okay. Yeah, there's a lot of fun in it that, again, you could really relate to. And I take this all back to, man, when I saw Office Space was right before I worked in an office. And it was me and my buddy who was a bartender, And me, I worked, it was a silkscreen shop and I was still in the production side of it. So again, I'd have to get onto the rug. We sat between two guys who worked in offices their whole life. And man, when Peter walks in and you see all those cubes, they were just like, oh. And we're like, what? And they're like, that's work. It's just soul crushing. And we're like, okay. And they know you like through the movie. You're like, oh, it's a funny movie. This guy's, these people are zany, whatever. And then months later, when I got that job, I was like, oh my God, I got to rewatch this movie because now I'm like, my brain was unlocked to the matrix of what was really there. And I was like, wow, okay. This was a good movie. Now just turned great because I have that experience,
Thank you for joining us today for this conversation about Thrown Under the Bus. Begin launching on Kickstarter around January. And if you want to follow along, all the links will be down in the description to the page and all that kind of stuff. And I just want to thank you again, Mr. James Cole, for joining us and having this lovely chat.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man. It was great. I had a good time.